Hi everyone, Chris Natsky here with Superfoot System, and welcome to Superfoot Stories. Stories from the life and times of Grandmaster Bill Superfoot Wallace. How are you, sir?
I'm wonderful. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
You guys are okay? Good.
All right. So last time we were together, we talked about your early training in Okinawa, how you started, and basically how the Superfoot System began as a result of an injury.
Yes.
You know, judo, going to karate, and then also having to change and modify what the traditional techniques were, because of the injury. So you were in Okinawa for about a year.
Yes, sir.
And then got transferred to San Bernardino while you're still in the service, correct?
Norton Air Force Base.
Okay, very good. And that was what year?
1966, 67.
All right, excellent. And what happened when you came back to the States?
Well, I come back to the States thinking that my martial arts career was finished. Because we didn't know. I didn't know anybody in San Bernardino or Norton or anything. So I get back to Norton Air Force Base. I'm there for a couple months. And somebody says, do you do martial arts? I said, yeah, I did it in Okinawa and up in Michigan. He says, well, do you know there's a karate school downtown? Just like Okinawa. And I says, really? And there were several. Oh. There was Kempo School, Shotokan schools, but the one that they directed me to was the Shorin-ryu School. The instructors were Mickey Janek and George Torbett. I walked in, talked to them, told them my credentials more or less, and they said, wow, we'd love to have you come and train with us. I want you to meet my brother. His name is Tony Janek. Tony Janek trained also under Eizo Shimabuku in the early 60s. And I went, wow, this is great. So we became instant friends right off the bat.
So total by happenstance, you find not only a karate school to train at, but it's your same system, in the same lineage of your instructor in Okinawa.
Yep.
Wow.
And the good thing about it is, they weren't at that time into competition. Then more the self-defense aspect is the fight for whatever it is. They just like to fight, just beat the crap out of each other. And I did it with technique combinations and so forth. Still scoring like well, but I learned when they would come at me to get out of the way, rather than just stand there after I hit them or something and get clobbered. I would score and get out of the way so they couldn't hit me back, which helps in competition. I'm there training. I started training I think November, something like this, and the guy said, "Hey, there's a tournament in February. You want to go to it?" What do you mean a tournament?
So you had never competed in a tournament in
Okinawa?
Yeah, right.
I said, what do you mean a tournament? Well, there's a tournament. For what? Wrestling, judo, for a karate tournament. Really? Yeah. They have fighting, forms, and weapons. They fight with weapons? Because I didn't know. No, they do forms with the weapons. Yeah. I said, oh. And they do kata with the katas. And what is the fighting like? They said, well, barehanded, barefisted, you spar, and 2 points was the winner. Control, but 2 points was the winner. And I went, hey, that sounds fun. I'd love to go. So it was in Santa Ana.
Okay.
I go to the tournament. Right off the bat, everybody that I'm with loses. I'm in a light. There's only two divisions back then, lightweight and heavyweight.
What belt were you at this time?
Brown.
Brown belt. Okay.
I was a brown belt. So I fight in this division, and my first match is my favorite combination. I throw back fist sidekick, drill him, bam, bam, and take the wind out of him. And the guy says, "Good kick, point." But the guy was done. I just threw another back fist and scored on him, and that was it, 2-0. And then I fought all the way through. Then I won the lightweight championship. Didn't even get scored on. And I'm fighting a guy named Jim Bottoms.
Yeah.
I remember the name well, for the grand championship in the brown belt division. He won. Now he was a brown belt for like years. He won by 1 point with a reverse punch. That could have gone either way because I threw him back because he was punch same time, but his went thump and mine controlled. But he came up after and says, "You're a very, very good competitor." I said, "Well, thank you, sir." That instant, they came up and promoted him to black belt.
They did.
During the tournament.
Wow.
Went,
Very good.
Maybe if I'd have scored,
So first tournament, you'd never done it before.
Yeah.
You take first place lightweight brown belt. So then, how long were you a brown belt, and when did you test for your black belt, or how did that work?
Okay, well, not done yet.
Okay.
So what happens is a couple months later on,
Yeah.
in May, I believe it is, Chuck Norris is having a tournament in Las Vegas. So he says, "You want to go?" I said, "Yeah," because the bugs got me.
Yeah.
So I go in the tournament. I do real well in that tournament. I win both. There's just one weight division, light and heavy together. I take third place in that tournament.
Okay.
And again, Jim Bond was there. He wins black belt division.
Oh.
So he says, And it was good. It was not about me. He says, you represent your school very nicely. And I said, well, thank you, sir, very much. Chuck Norris gives the trophies out. He says, I watched you. You're doing good. They shake hands. I went, wow.
So is that the first time you met Chuck Norris?
Chuck Norris, yep.
Okay.
Now, this is in May. A month or two later on, the end of May, Mickey Jeanette gets a call from Ed Parker. We're having a little Shiai, a little get-together at my school on Colorado Boulevard. Why don't you bring some of your belts, come down, we'll spar around. And I remember this. And he says, you want to go, Bill? I says, yeah, I'd like to meet some of the guys I've heard about, read about, but never met. So I go there, and it's tons of people. Chuck Norris is there, Joe Louis is there, a bunch of guys from all over. And but I didn't meet Joe Louis. He was just one of those things. But Chuck was walking around saying hi to everybody. And all of a sudden, some guy said, well, let's spar a little bit since everybody's around. So this guy, this black belt, picked me. And I had an absolute blast. I'm pardon my expression, but this guy comes up to me and says, you're that guy that was kicking everybody in the head, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, sir. He said, wow, because you guys, because there was Kempo people, even back then, the Taekwondo people, the Tong Soo people, didn't throw kicking techniques that high because they didn't have the flexibility.
Okay.
Even though they were taught it, they couldn't do it.
Yeah.
But I was just naturally that way. So I said, thank you, sir. And you went back, and I'm on, about this high off the floor,
Right.
happy. And then June comes along, and I'm discharged from the Air Force.
Okay.
I'm going back, and I bought a motorcycle there, so I got the motorcycle packed up, driving up. The guy says, hey, you're going back east, I'll ride with you. I said, fine, love to. But you know what's up in San Jose right now? Monterey? I said, what? June 1967. What happened in Monterey, June 1967? The Monterey Pop Festival. You want to go to it? I have no plans. So we drive up to the Monterey Pop Festival, park. It was just getting ready. This was like a Thursday or a Friday. The festival was the weekend. We get there like Thursday evening. No police, nobody. So we're walking all around. I'm watching Jimi Hendrix. I'm watching Mamas and the Papas. I'm watching guys just playing around, rehearsing, talking about. I said, wow, this is neat. Spent the evening there till about midnight. We went and got a hotel room, slept, got up the next morning, drove back to Indiana. My father always wanted me to be a school teacher. So I'm going to Ball State University. I'm going to become a school teacher.
Wow.
June 1967.
Okay, very good. So we're going to end there. So, but just to kind of wrap that up, June 1967. Are you a black belt at this time? Or
Barely.
Barely.
Yeah, they had a little ceremony just before I was discharged from the service, promoting me and a couple of the guys to black belt.
So you head back to Indiana. So we're going to stop there. We're going to come back at our next episode, kind of talk about that, because my sense is when you got to Indiana, that's when you started competing a little bit more.
Oh,
too.
yes. Yep.
Very good. All right.
There's a reason for that.
All right, excellent. We'll get to it. Well, thank you, sir, so much for
you.
sharing that with us. So, all right, so thanks everyone for coming and listening to Superfoot Stories. Next month, what we're going to do with Grandmaster Wallace is we're going to be discussing with him about his early days in competing here in the United States. So this has been Chris Natsky with Superfoot Stories, and we'll see you next month.